Hello and welcome to the 2025 Bob Johnson Bracket Breakdown. Here we're talking Class A boys basketball here in Section 3. Finally made the postseason. Connor LaLone, Tyler Clemons here with NBC Watertown. Connor's been on the stream team all year long, providing the action live all year for boys and girls. So he's kind of the expert here with Section 3. And we're going to break down the bracket and see where the matchups lie. Let's get right into it. Leading it off with the number 1 seed, West Hill at 18-2. They get to host Oneida. They had a 3-16 campaign. They are the 16 seed. For the 8-9 matchup, that's going to be pretty closely contested. Central Valley Academy will host, as they're the 8 seed, they will host the Mexico Tigers at 12-6. For the 4-13 matchup, that's going to be the first team out of the Frontier League. That's where the number 4 seed, Syracuse ITC, with an 11-9 record, will face the Indian River Wolves at 11-9 as well. So Connor, tough matchup there for Coach Tim Callahan.
Yeah, absolutely. ITC is one of the better teams, really, in probably the entire division here in Section 3. The A's, and South Jeff has played them already this year, so a little familiarity there in the Frontier League. You can kind of try to match those two games up against each other and try to figure out, okay, if South Jeff lost to Indian River or beat Indian River but had lost to ITC, then maybe we can figure out how that game's going to stack up. Always a dangerous game, though, because anything can happen once you get to the section. So a bit of a tough matchup for Indian River. They had a pretty good year, finished 11-9, and you end up having to play another team with the same record who's the 4 seed when you're the 13. Just the way the sectionals work, they take strength of schedule into account now. And tough one for Indian River, but again, anything can happen, so that'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah, it could be a bit misleading there with Syracuse ITC posting the same exact record as Indian River, but they play in two different ball games, really, as far as competition goes.
Yeah, very different stratosphere when you get down into the Syracuse area. Those schools just seem to have a lot more talent to pull from, and always tough to kind of match those teams up against each other unless they've seen each other previously in the season, and these two teams haven't, so that'll be one to watch out for.
Yeah, so that game is going to take place on Saturday. We mentioned South Jeff. They got the 5 seed this year. They're going to be hosting Camden. They're the 12 seed at 10-10. South Jeff 16-4. That is going to be at South Jefferson High School. Now, that's a 6 p.m. tip. And that is going to be today, the 21st, Friday. So not a lot of time to prepare as these seedings were just released.
Yeah, that's a tough one to turn around, especially tougher for the lower seed. They've got to go travel Camden up to South Jeff. It's not the longest ride in Section 3, but it's not exactly a stone's throw either. So coming up from Camden to South Jeff, that'll be a tough one for them. We've had the fortune to see the Spartans several times this season. Tons of size, tons of athleticism. Both Pittock kids are really, really good athletes, terrific shooters. Bobby Pittock's a menace, both defensively and on the boards. Hits tough shots over just about anybody whenever he wants to, it seems like. So that'll be a tough matchup for Camden. South Jeff, if they can move on either way, doesn't matter the result of the other game, they'll take on somebody that they've seen already this season. We mentioned ITC, they lost that game down in Syracuse, but able to beat Indian River on the year. So either way, they'll get somebody, assuming they can handle business against Camden, they'll get a team that they've seen before this season and have a chance to move on even further.
Yeah, we have moving down the bracket as well, the 2 seed. I mean, we all kind of saw this one coming. Janesville DeWitt at 14-6. Some thought that they might make a contest for the 1 seed there, but Westville ended up taking it. JD will play DVS, Vernon Verona Sherrill, with a 4-15 record. They're the 15 seed. New Hartford will host Chittenango. New Hartford, the 7 seed. Chittenango, the 10 seed. Really similar records there, 9-8 for New Hartford. Chittenango at 8-10.
After that, it's the 3 seed Bishop Grimes. They're 11-9, and on Friday night tonight, they'll take on Homer, who's 4-14. So maybe a little bit of a mismatch there, but again, just never know what can happen. And Cortland and Utica Academy of Science. That's the final matchup here, the 6 versus the 11. A couple of similar records there, despite a big disparity in the seeding. So again, just a result of who you've played really coming into effect with the new strength of schedule rules here in Section 3.
Yeah, so there you have it. That's the Class A 2025 bracket, and our show here brought to you by Bob Johnson's. The takeaway here, we'll talk about the local teams first, and then we can kind of maybe pick a winner who we
Yeah.
think might take the section. Indian River, you got to rely on Ariel Raymond, right?
Yeah.
I mean, over 300 points this year.
Yeah, he's a terrific athlete. We got to see him several times on the football field. Had a really good year. Really talented basketball player as well. Just a lot of athleticism and size, speed, which makes him a dangerous offensive weapon. Yep. Certainly their go-to on the offensive side of the ball.
Regardless, going to be tough going on the road to Syracuse ITC, a team that's already beat South Jefferson, which had their way pretty much through the Frontier League for a lot of the Class A teams. So talk about South Jefferson. We mentioned it before. Bobby Pittick is really the guy that they're going to rely on to go down the postseason play.
Yeah, especially offensively. Bobby's just a force. He's really talented, great basketball player. The other player to watch out for them, a couple of players, but Tommy Pittick is so good defensively, doesn't always get the credit I think that his older brother sometimes maybe takes away from him a little bit. Tommy just locked down Ian Van Wagner when we saw South Jeff beat Potsdam earlier this year. Van Wagner is maybe the best basketball player I've ever watched. I mean, he was just terrific. And they doubled him in that second half of the game, and Tommy Pittick was the real force there to shut him down and propel South Jeff to the win. Another player to look out for is Russell Hazard, terrific shooter. If he gets open and gets hot, South Jeff could be just about anybody in Section 3.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned those two players because you don't raise a banner without role players, right? You can, stars are definitely going to have to show out, and if that's how you make it down the line here, but it's role players that win the game, especially when you get into deep sectional runs like this. So the other Pittick and then Hazard as well, they're going to have to step up if South Jeff's going to make a deep run. South Jeff looks like for the Frontier League, they're going to have the best odds to make a deep run here in Class A. It sets up pretty decently for them, right? I mean, if you get past Camden, which you don't want to count your eggs early, but they have a good chance there. They're hosting, and then regardless, no matter who wins that next game, if it's Syracuse ITC or Indian River, a team that they've already seen before. That's sometimes the worst part about playing in sectionals is you're playing teams that you haven't seen yet, maybe don't have a lot of film on, and you just got to figure it out on the fly. So they're going to have an advantage there. Unfortunately, where they are in the bracket, they're going to run into that number 1 seed West Hill before you get to the SRC arena. So that's going to be a really tough matchup for them.
Yeah, West Hill's always good. Doesn't matter the sport. It doesn't matter the year. They're consistently good. And as somebody from South Jeff, having played them in a couple of different sports, when it gets to this level, they just seem to be the bane of our existence down there at South Jeff. So that's one to look out for if it does in fact end up happening. South Jeff and West Hill, again, two teams that don't necessarily see each other a lot during the regular season. Those matchups happen an awful lot when they get to the section in all sports. So a little bit of a rivalry there too as well, which is fun.
Section 3, Class A, boys basketball. Really, every class starts to tip off tonight. Support these kids, support these players. They've worked all year long for it. So start of the games. Some of the games are going to start tonight, some tomorrow. Some classes start a little bit later. So go online, find out where the matchups begin, and go out and support these players. They've earned it. We'll be rooting for the Frontier League teams as we move on here in the section playoffs. This is the Bob Johnson bracket breakdown, Class A boys. And we're going to do a series for each class, so stay tuned for those.